Nasipulasan ng mga motorista sa Cameroon matapos ang landslide.
Alamin natin kung nakaligtas sa mga ito mula sa pagguho ng lupa sa nasabing lugar mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Huwebes ng gabi.
Typhoon Marce naglandfall na sa Santa Ana, Cagayan.
Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. hindi dadalo sa APEC Summit.
Vice President Kamala Harris tanggap na ang pagkatalo sa US elections. President Joe Biden inibitahan si Donald Trump sa White House.
Hurricane Rafael naglandfall sa Cuba bilang Category 3 storm.
At halaga ng Bitcoin at dolyar tumaas sa stock market dahil sa pagkapanalo ni US President-elect Donald Trump. Dumaan na po ang Typhoon Marce sa Santa Ana, Cagayan matapos itong maglandfall kaninang alas 4 ng hapon. Ayon po yan sa Pag-asa.
Ayon sa datos ng State Weather Bureau, nasa coastal water ng Apari, Cagayan ang mata ng bagyo bandang alas 8 ng hapon. Gumagalaw ito sa direksyon ng pakanluran sa bilis na 10 km per hour habang may lakas ito na 175 km per hour at bugsong 240 km per hour. Nakataas ang signal number 4 sa northern portion ng Cagayan, Babuyan Islands, northern portion ng Apayao at northern portion ng Ilocos Norte. Signal number 3 naman sa Batanes, rest of Cagayan, rest of Apayao, rest of Ilocos Norte, northern portion of Abra at northern portion of Ilocos Sur. Signal number 2 sa northern at central portions ng Isabela, rest of Abra, Kalinga, Mountain Province, northern portion of Ifugao, northern portion of Benguet, rest of Ilocos Sur at northern portion of La Union. Signal number 1 naman sa rest of La Union, Pangasinan, the rest of Ifugao, the rest of Benguet, rest of Isabela, Quirino, Nueva Vizcaya, northern at central portions ng Aurora, northern portion ng Nueva Ecija at northern portion ng Zambales.
Taos-puso ang pasasalamat ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. kay Singapore Prime Minister Lawrence Wong sa ipinadalang tulong nito sa Pilipinas. Sa nagdaang bagyong Christine, nagpadala ang Singapore ng isang C-130 para magamit bilang transportasyon para sa mga non-food relief supplies sa Office of Civil Defense at Department of Social Welfare and Development sa Naga City. Sa isinagawang phone call ng Pangulo kay Wong, dito niya ipinabot ang kanyang pasasalamat sa punong mahistrado ng Singapore. Ipinahayag din ni PBBM sa naturang phone call ang kahandaan ng Pilipinas na makipagsosyo sa Singapore at magbigay ng tulong kung kinakailangan. Higit sa Singapore ay tumulong din ang Indonesia, Malaysia at Brunei Darussalam sa Pilipinas kung saan ay nag-deploy sila ng mga aircrafts para sa paghahatid ng relief at humanitarian efforts sa mga apektadong komunidad ng bagyo.
Bumagal sa 5.2% ang paglago ng ekonomiya ng Pilipinas noong third quarter. Batay po yan sa ulat ng Philippine Statistics Authority o PSA. Mas mababa ito kumpara sa naitalang economic growth ng ating bansa noong ikalawang quarter na 6.4%. Paliwanag ng PSA, ang pangunahing dahilan ng pagbagal ng paglago ng ekonomiya ng ating bansa mula buwan ng Hulyo hanggang Setyembre ay dahil sa epekto ng pagtama ng El Niño phenomenon at ng magkasunod na bagyo. Samantala, sinabi naman ni NED Secretary Arsenio Balisacan na ang pagbagal ng ekonomiya ng Pilipinas ay dahil na rin sa pag-urong ng paglago ng agricultural sector mula sa pinsala ng weather disturbances.
Hindi dadalo si Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa darating na Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation o APEC Economic Leaders Week na isasagawa sa Lima, Peru mula Nobyembre 10 hanggang 16. Ayon po yan sa Malacanang. Ipinaliwanag na Malacanang hindi dadalo ang Pangulo dahil prioridad nitong asikasuhin ang pagresponde ng gobyerno sa kalamidad, lalo na at hinahagupit ngayon ang Pilipinas ng Bagyong Marce. Sinabi ni Presidential Communications Office Acting Secretary Cesar Chavez, inatasan ng Pangulo si Trade Acting Secretary Maria Cristina Roque na dumalo sa summit bilang Special Envoy. Ang APEC ay binubuo ng 21 miyembro na kinabibilangan ng China, Japan, Russia, US, kasama na ang Pilipinas at iba pang mga bansa. Layon ng APEC Summit na talakayin ang pagpapaunlad sa global economy tungo sa isang sustainable growth at resilient development. Gayon din ang pagbalangkas ng isang direktiba para sa mga hinaharap na kolaborasyon sa rehiyon sa mga susunod na taon.
Ipinabot ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang kanyang pagbati kay US President-elect Donald Trump matapos manalo nito sa eleksyon. Inihayag din ng Pangulo ang kanyang tiwala na mas malalim at dinamikong ugnayan sa pagitan ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos. Pinagtibay din ni PBBM ang commitment ng Pilipinas na palawigin pa ang long-standing partnership nito sa US. Kumpiyansa ang Pangulo na ang liderato ni Trump ay makatutulong sa mabuting kinabukasan ng parehong bansa.
Nasabat ng Criminal Investigation and Detection Group o CIDG ang mahigit 2 bilyong pisong halaga ng mga counterfeit cigarettes at equipment sa Valenzuela City at maging sa San Rafael, Bulacan. Ayon sa CIDG, isinagawa ang Anti-Fraud and Commercial Crime Unit at Bureau of Internal Revenue ang isang 2 araw na operasyon noong Nobyembre 6 hanggang 7. Sa pagsalakay na ito, nasamsam ang iba't ibang tatak na iligal na sigarilyo na dinistribute ng mga suspect sa Valenzuela at malawak na koleksyon ng mga equipment sa paggawa ng sigarilyo sa San Rafael. Ilang individual ang naaresto, kabilang ang ilang foreign nationals, habang mahigit 150 biktima ng human trafficking ang nailigtas mula sa mga illegal na factory sa San Rafael. Susunod, Chinese leader Xi Jinping binati si Trump sa kanyang pagkapanalo sa US presidential elections.
South Korea nakaalerto pa rin matapos ang pagpapalibad ng North Korea ng missile.
At border ng South Africa at Mozambique, isinara. Mga detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Pasasalamat sa inyo mga ka-NET25 dahil umabot ng 1 milyon ang mga subscriber ng NET25 YouTube channel. Let's subscribe together here on NET25.
Binati Pinili ni President Xi Jinping si Donald Trump sa pagkapanalo nito sa US presidential election at hinikayat niya ito na maghanap ng tamang daan para magkaayos ang dalawang bansa.
习近平主席已向美国当选总统特朗普致贺。习近平主席指出，历史昭示我们，中美合则两利，斗则俱伤。一个稳定、健康、可持续发展的中美关系，符合两国共同利益和国际社会的期待。
Ipinahayag ito ni Xi habang patuloy na inuungkat ni Trump ang posibilidad na muling ibalik ang mga taripa na naging sanhi ng isang trade war ilang taon na ang nakalilipas. Kasabay nito, tumitindi rin ang tensyon sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa dahil sa mga issue gaya ng West Philippine Sea at Taiwan.
As soon as possible, ito po ang naging pag-amin ni Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba sa harap ng press kung kailan siya makikipagpulong kay US President-elect Donald Trump. Binanggit din ng opisyal na nagkaroon sila ng 5 minutong pag-uusap ni Trump sa telepono kaninang umaga. Anya, nagkasundo sila ni Trump na palakasin at dalhin sa higher level ang alyansa ng Japan at ng Estados Unidos.
今朝9時半から約5分程度、次期合衆国大統領に当選をされたドナルド・トランプ氏と電話会談を行いました。日米同盟、この5分の会談の間で、できるだけ早期にお会いしようということを確認をするとともに、日米同盟、さらにより高い次元に、より高い段階に引き上げていこうということで一致をいたしました。
Kaugnay nito, kinumpirma ni South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol na magpapatuloy pa rin ang trilateral relationship ng Seoul, Tokyo at Washington sa ilalim ng pamumuno ni Donald Trump.
Kinumpirma ni South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol na makikipagkita siya kay US President-elect Donald Trump. Ito ay upang talakayin ang issue ng North Korea. Partikular na ang paglulungsad ng Pyongyang ng Intercontinental Ballistic Missile o ICBM. Nag-usap ang dalawang leader sa telepono at nagkasundo rin sila na bumuo ng isang malakas na partnership sa Asia-Pacific at global region.
아시아 태평양 또 글로벌 지역에서 이런 한미 동맹을 바탕으로 해서 강력한 그 연대와 파트너십을 갖자고 하는 얘기도 나왔고요. 그리고 딱 북핵에 대한 얘기보다도 북한에 대한 관심을 좀 가지고 계신지 그 먼저 얘기를 좀 하셨습니다. ICBM과 IRBM 같은 이런 이제 SRBM 이런 것들 막 마구잡이로 지금 쏜다 뭐 이런 얘기도 좀 하고 참 믿기지 않는다. 여기에 대해서 어떻게 할 건가. 그래서 하여튼 가까운 시일 내에 만나서 많은 정보와 방안에 대해서 하여튼 좀 얘기를 하자고 이렇게 했고요.
오늘 기자회견에
Nananatiling nakabantay at nakaalerto ang South Korea matapos ang panibagong pagpapalipad ng ballistic missiles ng North Korea.
ICBM 발사에 이어 오늘도 단거리 탄도미사일 수발을 발사하는 등 불법적인 도발을 지속 획책하고 있습니다. 이러한 탄도미사일 발사는 명백한 안보리 결의 위반이며 한반도의 긴장을 고조시키는 위협으로 중단되어야 합니다. 우리는 이를 결코 좌시하지 않을 것이며 이후의 모든 결과에 대한 책임은 북한에게 있음을 다시 한번 경고한다.
Ayon sa Joint Chiefs of Staff ng South Korea, nagpalipad muli ang North Korea ng short-range ballistic missiles patungo sa East Sea o kilala bilang Sea of Japan. Patuloy din ang ugnayan ng South Korea sa mga otoridad ng US at Japan ukol sa panibagong missile launch ng North Korea. ang missile ay lumipad ng 400 kilometers. Ang taas na ito ay inilunsad sa Sariwon area na matatagpuan sa timog bahagi ng Pyongyang. Noong nakaraang linggo ay ipinagmalaki ng North Korea ang matagumpay na pagpapalipad ng Wasong 19 intercontinental ballistic missiles na itinuturing nilang pinakamalakas sa buong mundo. Nagpulong din ang UN Security Council upang maglabas ng pahayag na kumukondina sa isinagawang missile launch ng North Korea. Kasama ni US Ambassador to the UN Robert Wood ang representante ng Denmark, Ecuador, France, Greece, Japan, Malta, Panama, Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, Switzerland at UK.
We must not allow the sheer volume of DPRK launches to normalize its unlawful and destabilizing behavior. In response to this provocation, the United States introduced a press statement to the Council that simply recounted the details of the launch and expressed the Council's position that it violated UN Security Council resolutions. However, 2 Council members refused to join a united denunciation and called to uphold the Council's legally binding measures. All member states are obligated to implement sanctions on the DPRK, which remain in effect and are in accordance with the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. We call on the DPRK to return to negotiations, comply with its obligations under numerous UN Security Council resolutions, and abandon its weapons of mass destruction and ballistic missile programs. Thank you.
Nakatakdang isagawa sa Azerbaijan ang United Nations Climate Change Conference o COP29 para talakayin ang iba't ibang issue mula November 11 hanggang 22. Inaasahan na mapag-uusapan sa pagpupulong ang fossil fuel transition, rules for carbon market, boosting transparency at money for loss and damage. Dagdag pa rito ang global warming at ang patuloy na pagtaas ng temperatura sa buong mundo. Ang pangunahing paksa na tatalakayin ay ang climate change o climate finance COP kaugnay sa halaga ng perang kailangang ilabas kada taon. Malakapaloob dito ang pagbibigay ng tulong sa mga developing countries na nakararanas ng matinding problema sa usapin ng klima. Kasunod ito ng nalalapit na pagtatapos sa pledge ng $100 bilyong na pondo para sa taunang climate financing target. Iginiit ng mga mayayamang bansa na ang pagpapanukala sa karagdagang pondo ay magiging problema sa kasalukuyang budget. Samantala, ayon sa European Climate Agency Copernicus, ay asahan ngayong taon ang pinakamainit na temperatura. Aabot sa higit sa 1.5 degrees Celsius ang naabot ng mundo ngayong taon na ibig sabihin ay mas mainit kumpara sa pre-industrial average. Lumalabas sa datos na ang patuloy na pagtaas ng temperatura ay mula sa dumarami na greenhouse gases sa atmosfera. Kasama pa rito ang tumitinding El Nino na labis na nakaaapekto sa klima at kalagayan ng mga bansa sa buong mundo.
It's fueled the heat trapped by greenhouse gases due to, as we all know, from human activities. El Nino is a naturally occurring event, but everything now, all El Nino events, all La Nina events take place in the context of a climate which has been radically changed by human activities.
Pagbabalik ni Donald Trump sa kapangyarihan bilang Pangulo ng Estados Unidos ay magiging pangunahing usapin sa EU Summit na gaganapin sa Budapest sa Huwebes at Biyernes. Bagamat binati ng mga European leaders si Trump, nananatili ang kanilang pangamba sa posibleng pagkawala ng suporta ng US sa Kyiv sa digmaan sa Ukraine at ang commitment nito sa NATO. May banta rin ng posibleng magpataw ng dagdag na taripa sa mga produkto ng EU na papuntang US. Dagdag pa rito, nagkawatak-watak ang tatlong partidong pamahalaan ng Germany nitong Miyerkules matapos tanggalin ni Chancellor Olaf Scholz ang kanyang finance minister. Nagdulot ito ng paghimok ng oposisyon kay Scholz na payagan ang isang vote of confidence at agarang masimulan ang general election sa Enero. Tatalakayin sa pulong ang mga isyong ito kabilang ang pagbuo ng bagong commitment upang suportahan ang Ukraine at ilang sesyon ukol sa migration at economic security ng EU.
Tinalakay ni Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan at US President-elect Donald Trump ang pagpapalakas ng kooperasyon sa pagitan ng kanilang mga bansa. Nagkausap ang dalawang leader sa isang telephone call kung saan binati rin Erdogan ang pagkapanalo ni Trump sa presidential election ng Estados Unidos. Dagdag pa sa pagpapalakas ng Turkish-US ties, umapela rin si Erdogan kay Trump na makipagtulungan ng matapos na ang mga digmaan sa ilang bansa gaya ng Palestine at ng Ukraine.
Napilitan namang isara ng South Africa ang border nila ng Mozambique dahil sa marahas na kilos protesta. Mula kasi noong nakaraang buwan ay sumiklab na ang kilos protesta matapos na magwagi ang Frelimo Party. Ayon sa South Africa Border Agency na marapat lamang ang kanilang ginawa dahil sa lumalalang kaguluhan doon. Gumamit na ang mga kapulisan ng South Africa ng rubber bullets at stun grenades sa mga Mozambicans na nagtatangkang pumasok sa Libombo border. Ang Libombo kasi ang isa sa 4 na pinakaabalang land port sa Southern Africa na may layong 110 kilometers mula sa Maputo, ang capital nila. Pinayuhan nila ang mga bumabiyahe na maghanap na lamang ng ibang mga alternatibong daan. Mula nang magwagi si Daniel Chapo na ang kandidato ng Frelimo Party ay sumiklab ang gulo dahil hindi matanggap ng mga supporters ng opposition leader na si Venancio Mondlenana ang resulta. Umabot na sa 18 katao ang nasawi matapos makasagupa ng mga otoridad ang mga nagpo-protesta.
Ang APEC Summit 2024 ay gaganapin sa Peru mula Nobyembre 10 hanggang 16. Nakatakdang talakayin sa summit ang bagong diskarte sa economic cooperation ng mga APEC countries sa ilalim ng temang Empower, Include, Grow. Ito ang magiging unang APEC meeting para sa maraming mga lider, kabilang na sina Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, Thai Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra at iba pa. Ito rin ang magiging huling APEC Summit ni US President Joe Biden matapos niyang umatras mula sa 2024 US elections.
America is ready for a fresh start.
I will rescue the American dream.
Get out there and vote. Let's get this started. We're going to vote for a change. We're going to vote to take this country in a new direction.
Malaki ang naging ambag sa pagkapanalo ni US President-elect Donald Trump ng Pennsylvania para sa political comeback nito. Ayon sa resulta ng halalan, lamang si Trump ng 2% kay Vice President Kamala Harris. Ito ay sa bahagdan na 50.8% kay Trump at 48.1% kay Harris. Ang Pennsylvania ay katumbas ng 19 electoral college votes kung saan ito ang pinakamalaki sa 7 swing states. Batay sa pagsusuri ng mga political analysts, napansin nilang ang trend sa Pennsylvania election results ay pabago-bago. Simula pa noong 2012, nanalo si former US President Barack Obama sa Pennsylvania na isang Democratic Party candidate. Taong 2016 naman ay nagwagi si Trump sa Pennsylvania, subalit sa 2020 ay nanalo si incumbent President Joe Biden sa naturang estado na isang Democratic Party candidate.
Samantala, isang state ng Georgia na mahigpit na binantayan ng mga Republicans ngayong eleksyon. Kung matatandaan, the state of Georgia ang naging dahilan ng landmark victory ni US President Joe Biden noong taong 2020. Naging blue state ito dahil lamang sa 12,000 votes, sapat upang magtagumpay nga si Biden doon. Subalit ngayong taon, naibalik ni Trump sa pagiging red state ng Georgia at nakakuha pa ng 16 electoral votes doon. Hindi pa malinaw kung malaki ang naitulong ng mga botante ng Georgia sa pagkapanalo ni Trump bilang Pangulo ng Estados Unidos, pero napatunayan ng kampo ni Trump na pagmamay-ari ng Republicans ng Georgia.
Samot-saring reaksyon ang ibinunga ng maagang balita na nabawi na ni Republican Donald Trump ang susi sa White House. Sa electoral college votes na 295 to 336 base po yan sa pinakahuling polls, tiniyak na ng Republican Party na ang dating Pangulo ang bagong presidente ng Estados Unidos. Wala pa mga opisyal na bilang mula sa battlegrounds na Arizona at Nevada. Batay sa pinakahuling bilang, lamang na rin si Trump sa kapwa-estado. Narito pang detalye mula sa report ni Rosel Feria.
Ilang oras matapos matiyak ni President-elect Donald Trump ang kanyang tagumpay sa hindi maikakailang lamang kapwa sa electoral at popular votes, nagpahayag ng saloobin ang mga Amerikano sa makasaysayang pagkapanalong ito ng dating Pangulo. Ito ay matapos hakuti ng dating presidente ang hindi lang karamihan kundi lahat ng electoral votes ng battleground states. Sa Florida, nagse-celebrate ang mga taga-suporta ng 78-year-old president. Sa isang tulay sa harap ng Mar-a-Lago residence ni Trump, iwinawagayway nga ng kanyang mga supporters ang mga bandera habang suot ang mga damit na may stars at stripes. Isang lalaki ang umaawit ng national anthem ng US habang iwinawagayway ang napakalaking bandera na may nakasulat na Trump won. Para kay 46-year-old John Coles, umiiyak siya nang marinig ang balita.
So he woke up and I learned that he had the electoral votes. He was going to win the White House for the third time. And I just started to cry because our fundamental rights as Americans, our constitutional rights as Americans are at risk. They were at risk. Kamala Harris doesn't care about our constitutional rights.
Samantala, ani isa pang supporter, hindi siya natulog buong gabi at ngayon payapa na ang pakiramdam na nanalo ang kandidato nito.
I've been watching this for 3.5 years, everything that this man's went through, what his family's went through, and just to wake up today, I found such peace. I had to be here. I didn't sleep at all last night, one wink. I watched it all on TV, and then I came here to watch the sun come up.
Ayon naman kay Catherine na Trump supporter din, nakatanaw na siya sa mas magagandang araw na darating.
Good things are coming. Good things are coming. Whether you voted for him or not, you'll see a change in this country and hopefully the world. I just don't want all this war stuff and all this back and forth. I don't want all of it. I want just peace day in and day out.
Para naman kay Battleground Wisconsin resident na si Alexandra Pascalone, kung saan nanalo rin si Trump, ipinakita lamang ng resulta ng eleksyon na hindi pala ganun kaliberal ang Amerika.
So far from what we've seen, he's won both the electoral votes and popular votes. So I think this country is a bit more conservative than a lot of other people thought. And I don't know how to think about that. I think that just reevaluates how a lot of people feel about living in this country in general, not just the elections.
Obserbasyon ni Maryland resident Jordic Atchison, nanalo ang partidong mas handa sa laban at yan ay ang Republican Party.
I'm not surprised. I mean, one party was really consistent in what was their main point and what they were focusing on. I feel like, the Democrats kind of jumped out there with a couple of rocky starts with, who was the initial candidate and having to switch gears and, you playing catch up, and when you play catch up, you start down, it's hard to come back, and, the more prepared party won.
Nabawi ni Trump ang White House noong Miyerkules. Ito ay matapos ang isang kampanya na ayon sa mga kritiko ay nagpapalalim ng polarisasyon ng bansa. Nagtagumpay ang business tycoon matapos ang dalawang pagtatangka sa kanyang buhay at ang huling desisyon ng Democrats na patakbuhin si Harris nang magbitiw si Pangulong Joe Biden sa laban noong Hulyo. Si Trump ngayon ang pinakamatandang kandidato na nahalal bilang Pangulo ng bansa. Rosel Feria, Washington DC para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Samantala, nagbigay ng opinyon ang mga Latinong nakatira sa Estados Unidos, pati na ang mga nasa Mexico ukol sa pagkakabawi ni Donald Trump sa White House. Ito ay sa gitna ng plano ng President-elect na agarang ipatupad ang kanyang planong paghihigpit sa border na ipinangako nito noong nangangampanya pa. Dagdag pa ang kanyang massive deportation plan para sa undocumented migrants. Narito ang balita ni Tony Rose Valenzuela.
Wala pang isang araw matapos matiyak ni Republican Donald Trump ang kanyang pagpasok muli sa White House, iba't ibang reaksyon ng mga tao mula sa iba't ibang lugar at komunidad ang naglabasan. Ayon sa mga residente ng Allentown, hindi nila ikinagulat na nanalo si Trump sa makasaysayang eleksyon ito. Ang Allentown ay isang lungsod na may Latino majority na 125,000 sa battleground state na Pennsylvania. Si Kamala Harris ang ibinoto ng 56-year-old Allentown resident na may Puerto Rican heritage na si Ana Echevarria. Ayon kay Echevarria, hindi binigyan ng tsansa ng mga botante si Harris dahil babae ito.
Really, I wasn't surprised because when I saw last night that he won, I just turned the TV off. I said, this man gonna win. You know, he's gonna win. So I just went to bed this morning and said, he won. I said, I knew he was gonna win. Because a lot of people said elections, even my son, you know, wanted him too because he a man, they think he could be stronger, you know, and all this war. And nobody wanted her, I guess, because they were saying about the army. But what a woman can do, what that man can do. They didn't even give her a chance, you know.
Samantala sa Mexico City, hindi rin ikinatuwa ng mga residente ang pagkapanalo ni Trump. Isa sa kanilang mga alalahanin, karapatang pantao. Ibinahagi ni Lilia Cheribel na spokesperson ng neighborhood group sa Condensa Borough ang kanyang pagkadismaya na hindi nanalo ang sanay babaeng pangulo.
Mi opinión acerca de las elecciones de Estados Unidos, yo esperaba pues que ganara una mujer como aquí, porque creo que se iban a entender mejor, porque el señor Trump pues es medio arbitrario, misógino, racista.
Bumagsak ang halaga ng Mexican peso sa pinakamahina nito sa nakaraang 2 taon. Pagpapahaba ng hindi katiyakan at kahinaan ng bumabangon sanang pera. Tony Rose Valenzuela, Troy, Michigan, mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Inilarawan ni Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov na nasa historic low ang relasyon ng Moscow at ng Washington. Nilinaw din niyang bukas ang Kremlin sa isang dialogo kasama ang US, subalit nakadepende anya ito sa susunod na lider ng United States.
Практически невозможно, и отношения находятся в исторически самой низкой точке. А дальше уже будет зависеть от следующего руководства США. Президент Путин неоднократно повторял, что он открыт к конструктивному диалогу, основанного на справедливости, равноправии и готовности учитывать озабоченности друг друга. И президент Путин сохраняет этот свой настрой. Он его неоднократно подтверждал. В настоящий момент администрация США настрой диаметрально противоположный. А что будет в январе, мы посмотрим.
Nang tanungin si spokesperson Peskov kung aantayin ba nito ang tawag ng kampo ni President-elect Donald Trump ukol sa issue ng Ukraine, ipinaalala nito sa press ang kagustuhan ni Russian President Vladimir Putin na magkaroon ng dialogo ang Moscow at Washington. Sa ngayon ay mag-aantay na lamang muna ang lahat para sa mga konkretong plano para sa issue ng Ukraine war.
Naging ugat ng blame game sa loob ng Democratic Party ang pagkatalo ni Vice President Kamala Harris sa natapos na eleksyon sa Estados Unidos. Ayon sa mga political talking heads, ilan sa mga Democrats ang sinisisi si incumbent US President Joe Biden. Paliwanag nila, mali ang ginawang pag-urong ni Biden sa karera para ipalit si Harris bilang pambato ng Democratic Party. Sinabi naman ni Democratic strategist Mark Longabo, dapat maaga pa lang ay umatras na si Biden sa presidential race upang makapaghanda sana si Harris ng mas magandang game plan. Isa ring pinaniniwala ang dahilan ng pagkatalo ni Harris ay ang mahinang suporta nito sa mga Latino at Black Americans. Sinisi naman ng isang senior Democratic operative ang naging pamamaraan ng pangangampanya ni Harris, gayon din ang pinili nitong running mate na si Tim Walz. Sa kabila nito ay may pinupuri pa rin ng ilang taga-suporta ni Harris ang ginawa nitong hakbangin sa natapos na eleksyon. Susunod, lingap ng Iglesia ni Cristo sa mga nasalanta ng Hurricane Milton sa Florida.
Australia balak na ipagbawal ang social media para sa edad na 16 pababa.
At Miss Panama disqualified sa Miss Universe. Detalye ng mga balitang yan sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
America is ready for a fresh start.
I will rescue the American dream.
Get out there and vote. Let's get this done. We're going to vote for a change. We're going to vote to take this country in a new direction.
Matapos personal na pasalamatan ni President-elect Donald Trump ang kanyang mga taga-suporta sa Florida dahil sa matagumpay na pagbabalik ng Republicans sa White House, ay mas pinili nitong maging low profile at umiwas muna sa mata ng publiko. Subalit, hindi pa rin nakatakas si Trump dahil halos buong araw siyang nakatanggap ng mga tawag sa telepono. Hindi lamang mga lider ng iba't ibang bansa ang bumati sa kanyang matagumpay na pagkapanalo. Nakatanggap din siya ng congratulatory remarks sa mga natalo niyang kalaban. Pero ang pinaka-espesyal na pagbati na natanggap ni Trump ayon sa mga analysts ay ang imbitasyon ni US President Joe Biden. Sinabi ni Trump Campaign Communications Director Stephen Chong na tinawagan ni President Biden si Trump at tiniyak din anya ni Biden na magkakaroon ng smooth transition ang kasalukuyang administrasyon at ang incoming team ni Trump sa White House. Inaasahan ni Trump ang pakikipagpulong kay Biden sa lalong madaling panahon at pinasalamatan niya ang pagtawag at pagbati sa kanya ng kasalukuyang Pangulo.
Noong Miyerkules, nagbigay na ng concession speech sa bansa si US Vice President Kamala Harris. Ito ay sa kabila ng walang pahinga at mabilisang pangangampanya na hindi naman napigilan ang pagbabalik ni Republican Donald Trump sa White House. Kasama natin muli ngayon, live si Myla Simbulan sa Pennsylvania. Myla.
Sa harap ng kanyang mga taga-suporta na nagtipon sa dati niyang kolehiyo na Howard University, sinabi ni Democratic Presidential Candidate Kamala Harris na sa kabila ng pagsuko niya ng eleksyon, hindi nito anya isinusuko ang laban na nagpapaandar ng kanyang kampanya. Panoorin natin.
In our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
Ng mga tagapakinig na karamihan ay lumuluha. Ipinangako ni Harris na patuloy nitong ipaglalaban ang mga karapatan ng kababaihan, lalaban ng gun violence at isusulong ang dignidad na para sa lahat.
This election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for. But hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up and as long as we keep fighting.
Ayon kay Harris, tinawagan na nito si President-elect Trump at kinongratulate sa tagumpay. Nangako rin anya siya ng mapayapang pagsasalin ng kapangyarihan. Kasama sa mga dumalo sa concession speech ni Harris sa historically black college sa Washington, sina dating House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, aides ni Pangulong Joe Biden sa White House at libo-libong fans ng Vice Presidente. Kasama rin sa mga dumalo ang running mate ni Harris na si Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Matatanda ang umangat si Harris sa Democratic ticket noong Hulyo nang sumasa isang tabi si Biden. Umani si Harris ang panibagong entusiasmo at pondo sa kampanya. Subalit nahirapan itong pakalmahin ang alalahanin ng mga botante ukol sa ekonomiya at imigrasyon. At nito ngang Martes, tinalo siya ng malaki ni Trump na humakot ng mas marami boto kumpara ng tumakbo siya noong 2020. Nakuha rin ni Trump ang mga critical na battleground states na nagdesisyon sa eleksyon. May nasimbulan para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point. Balik sa inyo dyan, Nina and Ricky.
Myla, magandang umaga sa iyo, no? May tanong ako. Alam natin na ang eleksyong ito hindi lang para sa pagka-presidente at pagka-vice-presidente. Batay ba sa mga polls, anong impact ang ipinaramdam ng Republican Party pagdating sa iba pang key positions ngayong eleksyon?
So Nina, nabawi ng Republicans ang Senate majority, 50 seats ang kailangan para makuha ang majority. As of kagabi, nasa 52 seats na ang Republicans. So tiyak na sa kanila na ang mayorya. Ang ibig sabihin dito, dahil parehong Republican ang President-elect at Senate majority, mas madaling maipatutupad ang mga mungkahi at panukalang batas na isusulong ni Trump sa kanya panibagong administrasyon. Ngayon naman sa House, hindi pa tapos ang bilangan. 218 seats ang kailangan para sa majority. At as of kagabi, nasa 206 pa lang ang Republicans, ngunit lamang ito sa Democrats na nasa 191 seats naman. Nina and Ricky?
Ayun, kaya I'm sure today, moving forward, ang wish ng mga Amerikano, dahil nga Republicans ang pumuesto, maging best decision yan para sa kanila. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Myla Simbulan, mula sa Pennsylvania, USA.
From assisting local organizations to extending care to families in need, helping victims of calamities and natural disasters during crucial times are also when the Iglesia ni Cristo is quick to respond. And in Florida, where hurricanes are constant, let's take a look at how they were given the help they need. Cassandra Gamboa with that story.
With the peak of hurricane season happening during October, the threat of Hurricane Milton became very real and dangerous for residents, producing 126 tornado warnings, the highest number of tornado warnings issued in Florida in one day. The aftermath was devastating. Residents in Florida are no strangers to hurricanes. Yet, in the aftermath of Hurricane Milton, evacuee residents like myself are now facing flooding, gas shortages, and power outages, leaving over 3 million without electricity.
So after evacuating and coming back to the house, one of the most noticeable things that we can see damage-wise from the hurricane is our fence. As you can see, fences aren't normally standing like that. And so, yeah, we have work to do regarding our fence.
For Mark, who was born and raised in St. Petersburg, There is no getting used to living under constant destructive weather.
I've lived under the threat of hurricanes my entire life. It's been a trying time the last 2 to 3 weeks.
I couldn't even talk. It was so sad, all the things that had happened in our neighborhood.
But in a prompt response to reach out to residents impacted by the destruction of Hurricane Milton, the Church of Christ stepped in. Responding promptly to this great need, members put together care packages filled with essential items, food, cleaning supplies, and other items, and these goods were distributed to residents at the Treasure Island Community Center.
We very much appreciate the community outreach of so many organizations such as yours who have come to help the residents here recover. That's been wonderful.
This is fantastic, giving us water, feeding us, helping people with their cleaning buckets and everything. I love it. Thank you so much. This is fantastic. Tell how lovely all of you are. This has just touched my heart today, meeting all of you.
That's very kind, and you're doing the right thing for our community, and I'm very thankful.
This activity is a blessing, and I appreciate everything you guys done. You guys, it's truly a blessing to this community.
Through this Care for Humanity event, residents felt support from the Church of Christ. Yet, this wasn't the first time. Yet, the Church of Christ was able to respond, extending assistance and care to residents in the St. Petersburg region, putting together care packages of non-perishable foods and daily essentials.
I am just overwhelmed by what was brought to us. So thank you, thank you.
Esta actividad les agradezco mucho. Tienen un corazón muy bueno ustedes, sacar el tiempo y venir y pensar en nosotros y ayudarnos y darnos un momento de consuelo, de apoyo, de coraje.
Because of the great need, our executive minister, Brother Eduardo Manalo, decided that we would offer great help to our fellow man and to help in restoring the lives of people here in the state of Florida who were affected by the recent hurricanes.
Thank you, bless you. We really do appreciate from the bottoms of our hearts. Brother Eduardo, thank you so much during your birthday month to help this community out. We do appreciate it. If you ever are here, please stop by. We want to thank you in person. We are just blessed that you chose our community to help. So thank you.
Thank you. The tireless outreach efforts of the Church of Christ through the Care for Humanity project continues as members unite worldwide with its efforts. Treasure Island stands as a testament of its unwavering commitment in ensuring our fellow men receive help, especially in times of great need and during calamity.
Sa ibang balita, naglandfall na ang Hurricane Rafael sa Cuba bilang isang Category 3 storm. Ayon sa National Hurricane Center, umabot sa 115 miles per hour ang lakas ng hangin dala ng Rafael. Alos na sa 7,000 residente ang inilikas dahil sa banta ng storm surges, flash floods at mudslides. Libo-libong mga bahay naman ang nawala ng kuryente dahil sa pinsalang dala ng Hurricane Rafael sa energy infrastructure ng Cuba. Batay sa projection ng Hurricane Center, habang tinatahak ng Hurricane Rafael ang direksyon pakanluran, ay inaasahan na tatamaan din ng naturang bagyo ang Cayman Islands. Sa ngayon ay inaalam pa ng Emergency Services ng Cuba ang kabuuang halaga ng pinsala na idinulot ng bagyo at bilang ng nasawi kung mayroon man.
Patay ang 4 na katao habang hindi bababa sa 50 ang nawawala matapos matabunan ng lupa sa naganap na landslide sa Cameroon. Kita po sa video ang ilang sandaling pagguho ng bahagi ng gulod sa lugar. Mapapansing marami ang nagsipulasan papaalis sa lugar bago maganap ang landslide. Sinabi naman ni Cameroon Minister of Public Works Emmanuel Ngano Jumese na ang walang tigil na pagbuhos ng ulan sa lugar ang sanhi ng landslide. Nag-deploy na ng mga rescue teams sa lugar para hanapin ang iba pang nawawala. Ipinahayag naman ng World Meteorological Organization na kasalukuyang humaharap ang kontinente ng Africa sa mga extreme weather events dahil sa climate change.
Patay naman ngayon ang 5 tao sa Arizona. Ito ay matapos bumagsak ng sinasakyan nilang eroplano. Ayon sa mga otoridad ay patungong Utah ang 6-seater Honda Jet HA420 aircraft nang bigla itong nagkaproblema sa pagbaba sa paliparan. Bumagsak ang eroplano sa metal fence ng paliparan bago ito tuluyang tumama sa mga sasakyan. Kasunod dito ay natagpuan sa lugar ng insidente ang mga pasahero na wala ng buhay habang ang piloto ay agad namang isinugod sa ospital. Batay sa ulat ng Aviation International ay bumilis ang eroplano na higit sa 153 kilometro. Samantala, iniimbestigahan na ng mga opisyal ang problema sa likod ng insidente maging ang pagkakakilanlan ng mga sakay nito.
Nakaligtas ang piloto ng isang helicopter sa Houston matapos mag-crash ang sinasakyan sa Pearl Land Airport. Kita po sa video ang ilang sandaling nawala ng kontrol ang piloto sa sinasakyan nitong aircraft. Dito na sumalpok sa nakaparadang light aircraft sa paliparan patungo ito o bago ito tuluyang mag-crash. Ayon sa Federal Aviation Administration, bandang 8:35 na umaga na naganap ang insidente. Kaagad na rumisponde ang emergency services crew para bigyan ng medical atensyon ang piloto ng chopper. Patuloy namang tinitingnan ng Federal Aviation Administration ang sanhi ng insidente.
Nasawi ngayon ang 2 migrante habang nasa 200 naman ang iniligtas mula sa Canary Islands sa Spain. Ayon sa Spanish Coast Guard ay natagpuan nilang 2 bangkay na lumulutang sa katubigan ng Canary Islands. Kasunod dito ay kanilang inilikas ang higit sa 100 ng mga pasahero na agad namang dinala patungo sa ibang isla. Matatandaan din na nitong mga nakaraang araw ay 5 bangkay rin ang lumutang sa Canary Islands. Ito ay matapos mabutas ng kanilang inflatable boat. Kaugnay nito ay aabot na sa higit 1,500 na katao ang nailikas ng mga otoridad sa loob lamang ng 1 linggo. Samantala, nakabantay na ngayon ang mga opisyal sa lugar dahil sa sunod-sunod na insidente ng pagkasawi ng mga tao roon. Matapos ang historic political comeback ni President-elect Donald Trump ay lumago ang halaga ng Bitcoin at dolyar sa stock market. Pumalo kasi sa 2.2% ang US equity indexes sa S&P 500 kung saan ito ang pinakamataas na iniangat ng dolyar sa loob ng 4 na buwan. Nakinabang rin sa pagkapanalo ni Trump ang Bitcoin kung saan pumalo ito sa all-time high value na higit sa $75,000. Matatandaang malaki ang suporta ni Trump sa mga cryptocurrencies. Ang katunayan ay nangako si Trump kay Elon Musk na bibigyan niya ito ng posisyon sa administrasyon nito, partikular na sa pananalapi. Malaki ang tiwala ni Musk na makatutulong ang cryptocurrencies upang makaiwas ang Washington mula sa debt crisis.
Ipagbabawal na sa Australia ang paggamit ng mga social media para sa mga batang may edad 16 pababa. Inanunsyo ng Australian Prime Minister na si Anthony Albanese na maglalagay sila ng age check system sa mga social media para harangin ang mga batang users. Inaasahang maipatutupad ang kautusan sa susunod na taon kung saan ay binigyan din niyang ang masamang epekto sa sobrang paggamit ng social media. Anya, nasa proseso na ito ng pagbibigay abiso sa mga users at nakatakdang magsimula sa loob ng 12 buwan. Dagdag pa rito ay wala ring ibibigay na exemptions sa mga bata na mayroong parental consent at existing accounts. Samantala, kabilang sa mga social media platforms na ipagbabawal ay ang Meta, Instagram, TikTok at X.
Hindi pa tiyak ng San Antonio Spurs kung kailan makakabalik sa trabaho ang kanilang head coach si Greg Popovich. Dinala sa pagamutan ng veteranong NBA coach noong nakaraang mga araw dahil sa hindi umano magandang kanyang pakiramdam. Sinabi ni Spurs assistant Mitch Johnson na siyang tumatayo ngayong interim head coach na nagpapagaling lamang sa ospital si Popovich. Hindi na nagbigay pa ng anumang detalye kung ano ang lagay ng 75-year-old na head coach. Si Popovich ay itinuturing na NBA coaching leader na mayroong 1,390 coaching wins, 170 postseason wins at 5 NBA championship titles. Nasa pang 29th season na ito at nagwagi ng 3 NBA Coach of the Year awards.
Ibinahagi ng ilang mga artists sa kanilang mga social media ang kanilang naging pagboto para sa nagdaang 2024 US elections. Matapos bumoto ay nag-post ang ilang mga artists ng kanilang larawan habang suot ang sticker na I voted. Kasunod nito ay kanilang hinikayat ang mga fans na makiisa at bumoto sa kanilang mga lugar para sa kanilang napiling kandidato. Dagdag rito ay nagpaalala rin sila na kung sira ang voting machines ay maaaring humingi ng paper ballots para makaboto nitong mga nakalipas na araw. Kabilang sa mga artist na nag-post ay si Mark Ruffalo, Lady Gaga, Alec Baldwin, Eva Longoria at Andy Cohen.
Samantala, sinagot ngayon ang American rapper na si Cardi B ang sinabi ni Elon Musk na siya ay mukhang puppet sa naging pagdalo niya sa campaign rally ni Kamala Harris. Makikita ang komento ni Musk sa isang shared video clip na may linyang isang puppet na naman ang hindi alam ang sinasabi. Kasunod nito ay hinamon ni Cardi B ang kaalaman ni Musk sa matinding karanasan na pinagdaanan ng mga tao sa Amerika. Anya, hindi siya puppet at anak siya ng 2 migrante na nagsumikap na magtrabaho para maialis ang buhay sa kahirapan. Bukod rito ay tumagal naman ang pagsasalita ng rapper sa campaign rally ng 10 minuto kung saan ay binanggit niya ang pagsulong sa karapatan ng mga kababaihan. Giit niya ang pagsuporta niya kay Harris ay nagmula sa mga maganda nitong plano para sa mga babae at maging sa ekonomiya.
Inanunsyo ngayon ng Miss Universe na hindi nakasali sa kompetisyon ang kandidata ng Panama na si Italy Mora. Ayon sa organisasyon, ang naging desisyon na alisin si Miss Panama ay dahil hindi nito nasunod ang evaluation na ginawa ng kanilang disciplinary commission. Giit nila ay pinapanatili lamang nila na masunod ang integridad at pamantayan na nakapaloob sa kompetisyon. Dagdag pa nila ay hindi maaaring ilabas ang ilang impormasyon sa pagkakaalis ni Italy Mora bilang bahagi ng confidentiality. Bukod po dito ay sinabi ng Pangulo ng Senyorita Panama opisyal na si Cesar Arnel Rodriguez na wala namang problema sa pagitan nila at ng organisasyon. Anya, napag-usapan naman ng dalawang panig ang issue kung saan ang huling desisyon ay hindi makasasali ang kanilang bansa para sa 2024 Miss Universe. Samantala, nakatakdang isagawa ang 2024 Miss Universe sa Mexico City na katatampukan ng nasa 130 mga bansa.
Pagkaganda-gandang babae, no, Ricky?
Kaya lang, syempre, talagang in every competition, there are rules at no one should be above the rules. Sabi nga, nobody is above the law.
At laging tatandaan, hindi naman puro ganda ang lahat.
Ay, yes.
Maraming iba pang bagay,
Oo, maraming
diba?
pang pamantayan,
Tama.
diba? At saka, balita ko, diba, Nina, yung mga iba, per organization, dahil di lang naman Miss Universe yan, yung iba yung pamantayan din nila. Meron nga ako nabalitaan na isang organization, isa sa mga biggest considerations nila, yung paano ka makitungo sa staff. So, hindi lang talaga ganda. So, actually, gumaganda talaga marami kapag maganda rin ang ugali.
Tama. Kahit ako man, hindi yun ang sukatan ko lang eh. Maraming iba pang bagay, lalo na kapag sumali ka sa isang ganyang kompetisyon, di ba? Nag-evolve na kasi yung konsepto natin ng beauty na hindi basta mukha lang or magandang hubog lang ng katawan, kundi yung pangkabuuan na kagandahan ng isang tao.
Ayan. At tandaan po na narito kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Muli ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores, ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina Enrique. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. In what many are calling a stunning upset, Vice President Kamala Harris' bid for the presidency has come to an unexpected end. And despite her ambitious campaign, Harris fell short of the 270 Electoral College votes needed to win.
But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for. But hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
And the news starts now. In what many are calling a stunning upset, Vice President Kamala Harris' bid for the presidency has come to an unexpected end. And despite her ambitious campaign, Harris fell short of the 270 Electoral College votes needed to win, securing only 226 and failing to win a single swing state. Now, speaking to supporters at her alma mater, Howard University, on Wednesday afternoon, Harris conceded the race and sought to comfort voters who had hoped she would make history as the first woman to occupy the White House. Take a look.
In our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
The defeat echoes 2016 when another female candidate's White House dreams were dashed. Like Hillary Clinton before her, Harris never took the stage at her election night gathering. The signs of trouble were there. Despite strong fundraising and celebrity backing, Harris struggled to maintain key Democratic coalitions. The numbers are telling. Female support dropped 3% from 2020. Latino voters shifted 6% away. And these weren't just losses, they were decisive shifts.
And people have woken up, I said, we go to H-E-B and we came by a fajita for $2.99 when Trump was there, as opposed now it's anywhere between $8.99 to $10.99. And recently we've been buying and doing the barbecues with nothing but chicken. Say we're going to be flying, growing feathers out of our hairs and our ears because that's all we've been eating is chicken.
The reason? A perfect storm. Just 16 weeks of active campaigning against Trump's 9-year political presence.
Last time it was just Trump, almost newborn into the presidency, trying to work out what to do with this extraordinary thing that had happened to him. And this time round, he has a much better sense of people who share his worldview.
The border crisis she couldn't shake. Inflation and economic concerns that hit home with voters.
A lot of her policies did not connect. She kept saying stuff about, the middle class, but Trump, for me at least, Trump was a lot more better suited for the middle class than she was. She tried to connect pretty well, but Trump did a whole lot better with his presentations and stuff like that. So.
When Donald Trump left office the last time, we were just coming into COVID, but things were still really, really well. I think, unfortunately, the Democrats the last time around got saddled with most of the financial burden from COVID and a lot of the blame from that. But the fact is, Donald Trump, when he left office the last time, left us in a better economy.
Because immigration, cost of living, these things have powerfully, it looks like, driven him to victory.
Her unwavering defense of Biden administration's policies.
I think in retrospect, one of her biggest challenges wasn't about her. It was about the fact from the start you were running a candidate who was tied to a deeply unpopular administration. And once you see that, and that made it hard for her to position herself as the candidate of change, you will ask what made him unpopular, and why were his economic policies doing poorly, and immigration policies, even when there's metrics that show he's quite successful.
So the big thing to point to, and I think there's going to be a lot of introspection and finger pointing among Democrats, is how they went about selecting their nominee. It was not conventional, to say the least, to stand behind effectively an uncontested primary season behind an incumbent president who then you abandon at the final hour and replace with the vice president who was the natural pick in some ways, but there wasn't so much as a moment of introspection between him stepping down and the party rallying behind her, even though in 2020 she ran what was widely regarded as a lackluster campaign.
Now, America on Wednesday woke up to a new president. Republican Donald Trump secured the 270 electoral votes needed to defeat Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. According to the latest poll, Trump won 295 to 226 electoral votes against the vice president. Battlegrounds Nevada and Arizona have not been called yet, but latest count shows Trump leading anyway in both. Let's hear from Rosel Feria how Americans feel now that Trump again will have the keys to the White House. Rosel.
Hours after President-elect Donald Trump secured his win in a sweeping lead both in electoral and popular votes, Americans weigh in on the historic win as the former president took most, if not all, the battleground states. In Florida, ecstatic supporters of the 78-year-old president celebrate his victory. On a bridge in front of Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence, supporters waved flags and dressed in stars and stripes, marking the occasion. One man sings the national anthem as he waves an enormous Trump won flag. 46-year-old Chan Cole says she cried upon hearing the news.
But we woke up and I learned that he had the electoral votes. He was going to win the White House for the third time. And I just started to cry because our fundamental rights as Americans, our constitutional rights as Americans are at risk. They were at risk. Kamala Harris doesn't care about our constitutional rights.
Meanwhile, another supporter says he stayed awake all night and now feels peace that his candidate won.
I've been watching this for 3.5 years, everything that this man's went through, what his family's went through, and just to wake up today and found such peace. such peace. I had to be here. I didn't sleep at all last night, one wink. I watched it all on TV, and then I came here to watch the sun come up.
Trump supporter Catherine is looking forward to what she says are better days ahead.
Good things are coming. Good things are coming. Whether you voted for him or not, you'll see a change in this country and hopefully the world. I just don't want all this war stuff and all this back and forth. I don't want all of it. I want just peace, day in and day out.
Battleground Wisconsin resident Alexandra Pasqualone, where Trump also won, says the election results reveal that America is not too liberal after all.
So far from what we've seen, he's won both electoral votes and popular votes. So I think this country is a bit more conservative than a lot of other people thought. And I don't know how to think about that. I think that just reevaluates how a lot of people feel about living in this country in general, not just the elections.
Maryland resident Jordan Atchison says the party that won, Republicans that is, was the more prepared one.
I'm not surprised. I mean, one party was really consistent in what was their main point and what they were focusing on. I feel like, the Democrats kind of jumped out there with a couple of rocky starts with, who was the initial candidate and having to switch gears and, you playing catch up, and when you play catch up, you start down, it's hard to come back, and, the more prepared party won.
Trump, who is now the oldest ever man to be elected president, recaptured the White House on Wednesday. This after a campaign that critics say deepened the polarization in the country. The business tycoon prevails after 2 attempts on his life and a late decision by Democrats to run Harris when President Joe Biden withdrew from the race in July. Roselle Feria, Washington, D.C., NET25 World News.
Now, there were several bomb threats in several swing states right up until the voting took place. Take a look.
Typically, I know that in Atlanta, they also just got a whole bunch of bomb threats come through. And Atlanta Police Department, they're keeping everything open. All the precincts are staying open, and they're just sending dogs around to sweep it to make sure that they're safe. But
we planned heavily for the incident of a bomb threat being called in. And it's a good thing we did, because that's the only thing that happened today was 32 bomb threats at different polling locations. 32. We were able to clear 27 of them very quickly without the need for an evacuation. 5 of them, the polls were temporarily closed down at the poll manager's request while we conducted the sweep.
In total, bomb threats were called in to locations in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, and Wisconsin. The threats, ultimately deemed not credible, appeared to aim at causing chaos, especially in the states likely to decide the election.
Yeah, I think they're scaring people, and that's not good. Probably the people who were here, they may not come back. We're going to keep the polls probably open later. That will be probably a judge will decide how long that should be. But I think it's just scaring people, and then you don't have the turnout you should, because it hits the news. And then probably people here were probably scared.
Most of the threats centered on Georgia's Fulton County, where 32 out of 177 polling sites were targeted. While many threats were quickly dismissed, 5 sites had to be evacuated and secured before reopening, causing delays.
The location was temporarily evacuated. However, this was a minor disruption, and the polling location was reopened after officers were able to determine that it was safe to have people come inside and continue voting.
Officials extended voting hours to compensate, minimizing any lasting impact. But who was behind these bomb threats?
We've heard some threats that were of Russian origin, and so I don't know how to describe if that's viable. We don't think they are, but in the interest of public safety, you always check that out, and we'll just continue to be very responsive when we hear about stuff like that. We identified the source, and it was from Russia.
A claim that's raised eyebrows nationwide.
And I just want to make sure everyone understands this, that Georgia's not going to be intimidated. Russia has just decided they picked on the wrong Georgia. They need to pick on the other one in the Black Sea, because we're not going to be intimidated. But we're just excited about where we are right now.
Members of both parties voiced concerns over foreign interference. While Republicans and Democrats suspect Russia's involvement, the Russian embassy in Washington called the allegations malicious slander, questioning the sophistication of using Russian email domains for such threats. Ultimately, the election proceeded with few disruptions. Though these threats caused inconvenience, they didn't appear to alter the final results significantly.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and
Now, how would Trump navigate the world amid the turmoil of the Middle East, Ukraine, and the tariff war in China in a Trump 2.0 scenario? Take a look.
While campaigning to regain the US presidency, Donald Trump said that he would be able to end Russia's war in Ukraine in 24 hours.
it will take me no longer than one day.
He warned that Israel would be, quote, eradicated if he lost the election.
And you can't let that happen.
And he vowed sweeping new tariffs on Chinese imports.
I'm going to put tariffs on other countries.
What does his US election victory mean in a turbulent world? Trump's response to Russia's war in Ukraine could set the tone for his agenda. Under President Joe Biden, the US poured in tens of billions of dollars in military and financial aid. Trump criticized the level of US support for Ukraine's war effort and promised to end the conflict before he takes office in January. But he didn't explain how.
There are certain risks connected with Trump. There are two main risks. The first is that Trump will initiate talks on ending the war. He wants a quick result, and there is a risk that certain concessions could be made to Russia. I don't think that Trump would agree to peace only on Russia's terms, as this would look like a defeat for the US, and his advisors, and even himself, understand this. Nevertheless, some concessions will be made. It is highly likely that Trump would close the door on Ukrainian membership of NATO, which would certainly provoke a negative reaction from Zelensky and from the Ukrainians. And then the Ukrainian side will most likely be insisting on the US to give us stronger security guarantees, something like Japan, South Korea, Taiwan and Israel have.
NATO, which backs Ukraine, is also under threat. Trump had warned that he would not only refuse to defend nations, quote, delinquent on funding, but would encourage Russia to do, quote, whatever the hell they want to them. Trump will also confront a volatile Middle East that threatens to descend into a broader regional conflict. Israel is fighting wars in Gaza and Lebanon while facing off against Iran. Trump is expected to continue arming Israel. His policy toward Israel will likely have no strings attached for humanitarian concerns.
Trump's been a big supporter of Israel. He hasn't always got on with Netanyahu, and I'm not quite sure where that relationship will go, though I'm sure Netanyahu is pleased to see Trump rather than Harris heading for the White House. And, of course, we'll still have Joe Biden to contend with for the next 2.5 months. Trump could make this better, or he could make it an awful lot worse. He could make it worse by siding with those in Netanyahu's cabinet who say, essentially, let's look to annex the West Bank, let's look to control Gaza, let's see if we can push the Palestinians out. We are not giving land to the Palestinians, and that is something that Netanyahu himself has said about not giving, creating a state for Palestinians. Trump could, though, be tempted, what to me is a more positive direction, of building on the Abraham Accords with the Emirates and other countries in his first term and saying, look, the big prize for the region and for Israel, and for me, is a deal with Saudi Arabia, the normalization of relations. Saudi wants an awful lot of things from that in its relations with the US, and offering really great prizes to Israel in terms of relations with other Arab countries, but also other Muslim countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, if you can come to some deal, which in the Saudi Arabian point of view must include now a state for the Palestinians. If he could put his weight towards that, that would be a positive route out of what is a worsening situation there. But I'm not sure that he's that way inclined, and it's certainly not where this current Israeli government is inclined.
A Washington-based strategic advisory firm analyst has predicted that a second Donald Trump presidency could lead to significantly increased tariffs on China, and Trump's first term saw a trade war with China resulting in tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods. His administration argued that these tariffs were necessary to combat China's unfair trade practices and to promote fairer market access for U.S. companies. An analyst believes that under a second term, Trump may revisit and possibly ratchet up these policies in order to pressure Beijing further. Let's get more insight from Jeff Sanidad in Washington, D.C. on what this could mean for U.S.-China relations.
The Asia Group Director Han Shen-lin says President-elect Donald Trump would be looking to settle unfinished business. This by resuming trade discussions where his first administration left them 4 years ago.
At least in terms of the U.S. trade policy towards China, my guess is that they'll look back at where the last trade discussion went during the first Trump administration, and I suspect the Trump administration will say that we still have unfinished business here. So certainly the signals we've gotten so far are a lot more tariffs, or at least the threat of that.
Poll shows that 78-year-old Trump recaptured the White House by securing more than the 270 Electoral College votes needed to win the presidency in Tuesday's election. A key plank of Trump's policies and likely to have the biggest global impact are import duties. These include a 10% universal tariff on imports from all foreign countries and a 60% tariff on imports from China. Lin says Trump's tariff threat on China are likely to happen. This after the former president voiced the subject in recent media appearances.
I believe that Trump's threat of 60% tariffs will likely happen, and that he has actually voiced it several occasions in the past, and including his most recent 3-hour interview on the Joe Rogan interview show.
Lin says the U.S. commitment to its global alliances could also be tested by the next Trump administration. This after Trump threatens to withdraw from NATO if allies did not raise their defense budgets.
Under the Trump administration, there would likely be an atrophy of the alliance system. So as you look at the various alliances such as NATO, at least those may be weakened a bit, or at least there's going to be more pressure on partners to pay for their share of the protection, for example. So that may be an opportunity for China to allow them a more forward presence within their own geographic area, primarily the Pacific.
Lin adds, with the European Union also threatening to increase tariffs, China could attempt to divide attention between its two biggest markets and within the EU states themselves. This, he says, in order to slow down the evolution of higher tariffs. Jeff Sanidad, Washington, D.C., NET25 World News.
Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba hopes to meet U.S. President-elect Donald Trump in the United States this month in an attempt to emulate then Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's close ties during Trump's first term. The U.S. is Japan's most important economic and security partner, while Tokyo is a key Washington ally in Asia, providing bases that allow it to keep a large military presence in China's doorstep. Ishiba told reporters he had held a 5-minute phone call with Trump on Thursday morning Japan time and that they agreed to meet as soon as possible.
日程については現在調整中でありますが、なるべく早くそういう日程を取って会談をしようということでは一致をいたしました。会って話をすることを楽しみにしているということでありまして、私もそのように思っております。私もこうやって電話ではありましたが、1対1で話をするのは初めてでございました。もう一言で言えば非常にフレンドリーな感じがしましたですね。ですからこれから先の言葉を飾ったり繕ったりするのではなくて、本音で話ができる、そういうような方だというような印象を持ったところであります。
では終わります。はい。
And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
The
heat is on for clinics that have the latest and most advanced technologies to preserve the youthful glow. In this episode, we are unlocking the business potential of ageless beauty together with Skin, Face, and Body Anti-Aging Center's Dr. Gisela Trajano Sarmiento.
If you are really open for business, you really have to find the side of you that would say that you are different from the others. There should still be a uniqueness that you will offer to the world.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sa NET25.
The world is on track to experience its warmest year on record in 2024, and that is according to the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service. And data shows that global temperatures from January to October have been so high that 2024 is virtually certain to eclipse 2023 as the hottest year since records began.
In all likelihood, 2024 will be the new record-breaking year. Not only that, but it's very likely, well, virtually certain now, that it will exceed the 1.5 threshold for the first time. So last year, we kept the temperature below 1.5 just by a small margin. We were 148. And we have been above that threshold throughout the year. So in order to keep it below 1.5, we will really need to see two impossible months of basically zero anomaly. So we do expect the temperature to shoot above 1.5 significantly, so in more than a tenth of a degree, so to speak. Climate is warming generally. It's warming in all continents, in all ocean basins. So we are bound to see those records being broken. So in that sense, the fundamental underpinning cause of this year record is climate change, is the anthropogenic warming of the climate system. We are bound to see more and more exceedances at the annual level. So this is the first. It won't be the last. It will be every single year. It will become more likely for the temperature to pass the 1.5 threshold, and eventually, in 5-10 years' time, basically every single year will be above 1.5. At the current rate, we do expect that limit to probably be reached between the end of this decade and the beginning of the next one, around 2030s, if you want, give or take, with the uncertainty due to this variability I was mentioning before. But it's not something that will happen far into the future. It's basically around the corner now.
Fires have ravaged Southern California, leaving parts of Camarillo in ashes. On Wednesday, intense wildfires swept through the area, taking down homes and filling the sky with thick, dark smoke. Local video showed the scene, streets littered with burned cars and homes still smoldering.
All right, we're here in Camarillo, California in November. Have Santa Ana winds starting this fire. There's a lot of homes that have burned. This neighborhood right here, there's probably like 5 or 6 really nice houses. The roof's collapsing on this one. Sad to see.
Right now, the situation remains dire. In Ventura County, the mountain fire has already scorched over 10,000 acres. And down in Malibu, the broad fire is burning too. Though crews have made some progress with containment.
Here at the mountain fire, this just started like an hour ago. It's well over 1,000 acres, already burning homes. You can hear them, explosions in the background. Camarillo, California. This is a pretty crazy, intense day.
With high winds and dry conditions, crews are in for a tough fight. Fire department officials from Ventura County in California said the area was facing a relentless wildfire spanning 10,431 acres with zero containment.
This is a classic Santa Ana wind event. We've got sustained winds more than 50 miles an hour with gusts over 80. Every firefighter in the region, all of our partners from Los Angeles City, Los Angeles County, Orange County, Kern County, Santa Barbara County, our partners at CAL FIRE, our partners in the sheriff, every law enforcement agency available, every helicopter, every fixed-wing aircraft, everything we've been able to get a hold of is here fighting this fire.
The containment number at this point in time is at 0%.
Our goal as law enforcement, much like fire, is preserving life and preserving structures.
We have made over 14,000 contacts to evacuate people within the community. Please continue to stay out of the area unless you absolutely need to be here. Please stay away.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.